And all right. So here we are with mother and uh, mom and dad time and mom and dad talk. And so basically, we got two questions we're going to talk about here today. We're going to talk about the celebration of a child. How should you celebrate a child? And then the second one is going to be when is a child ready to receive a gift? And how do you know that they're ready to receive a gift? So there's two questions we're going to talk about today. And of course, these are my parents here. So, I'm going to talk to my mom and dad. Mom and dad. So, you guys just didn't celebrate regularly. There was a certain way you would celebrate, but you would, and I want you to talk about that. Can we open it up and talk about that? Who's going to start first?
Your mother will start first.
Go ahead, Dad.
I want to start first. I think the most important part of raising a child is know your child and speak to your child. And it's an intuition as to you can, if you speak to your child and you know your child, you know when they're ready to do certain things and when they're not ready to do certain things. Um, for instance, I remember one Christmas, uh, I had in my mind some presents I was going to buy Todd for Christmas. We never told Todd there's a Santa Claus. And, he knew that the gifts were coming from us and not some guy in a red suit and reindeer and everything. But we asked him, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I had in my mind what I was going to get him for Christmas.
Mm.
But he surprised me and he said, "I want an album by Kool and the Gang." And that kind of shocked me. So I had to think about that. Kool and the Gang. At the time, I didn't know who Kool and the Gang was. So
Mm.
what I did was I got on the radio and I listened for the song, the Kool and the Gang, Celebration, I believe it was.
Yep.
And I said, wow, that's unusual because I didn't know Todd liked Kool and the Gang. So anyhow, I took back my gift, got my money,
Mm.
and I bought this album, Kool and the Gang. And he was so happy and to get the album, and that's all he wanted. So I celebrated. Oh, Todd, I celebrated with him. Uh,
Mm.
so the thing is, you have to know your child, and sometimes your child will surprise you. But I bought him that Kool and the Gang album because the Christmas present I got for him was very much more expensive than Kool and the Gang. So sometimes you have to know your child to know what they want and when they want it. Another time, Todd was ready to drive,
Mhm.
so we had a Monte Carlo,
Yeah.
and we were going to buy another car, and so we gave him the Monte Carlo. It's a beautiful Monte Carlo, black with
Mhm.
black interior and everything, shiny, real nice. And so one day he came home and he said, "Dad, the car won't start." I said, "What? The car won't start?" And that kind of befuddled me. So at the time, the mechanic was down the street. I towed it down there, and he looked at it, he checked it out, and says, "Your engine's frozen up." And oh boy, I thought, okay, now I know what we have to do. So Myrna had a friend that owned a car lot, and he had this old, ugly 1975 Granada,
79.
79 Granada. Uh, and it was a four-door. It was an old lady's car. So we got him that car. I think we paid, what, 500 or something
No,
like
no.
that.
I paid 500. You all made me pay out of my money for $500 for this car.
Made him pay $500 for the car. We got the car, and he hated that car.
Sure did.
But that taught him a lesson
It
that
did.
people always remember to take care of your vehicle, to check the oil in your vehicle, to check the tire, the air pressure, because that's very, very important. I think that's a lesson that he learned, and he still is very conscientious about his vehicle today.
You know, and adding to that, just to give the people a background there. So basically, I didn't put the oil in the car, and you know, I didn't know put oil in the vehicle. Oh, this is running well, and it all of a sudden it seized up on me. And you know, you guys said, well, we're going to teach you a lesson, and basically, you know, you were actually taking me to school, and I didn't mind. I like to be chauffeured. You know, I didn't like to drive, so that was no punishment for me. And you guys like, well, this ain't gonna work. But what did work was not only did you take money and make me pay for this car, but the car that I got, I call it the Sister Smith car because there's a lady at church named Sister Smith, and she's like 90 years old, but she still drove. And the car was exactly like Sister Smith. And I'll never forget that first Sabbath I had that car and I drove it to church. And you know, Mr. Carter, Mr. Cochran, they were married men, but you know they were my mentors, and they all said, "Sister Smith is here." I didn't say one word. And they went out to the back. They looked on, where's Sister Smith at? I didn't say one word. I was like, oh, I'm not saying. I was just so embarrassed. I said, Lord, please don't let them find out who owns this car. And they kept on asking, and they were just adamant about finding Sister Smith. Well, praise the Lord, Sister Smith showed up. The problem was Sister Smith parked right next to my car. So it made it even worse. So I'm sitting up there like, oh, Lord, okay, Sister Smith is here, but she parked right next to me. And so the guys went out there and they looked, they're like, there's two cars. And they both look like Sister Smith's car. Who has the other Sister Smith car? And everybody left, but they were waiting until everybody left to see who had the other Sister Smith car. And that's when I came out and I had to explain what happened to me. It was a very unique way of keeping me to adhere to the rules of taking care of a vehicle that I still to this day, after that embarrassment, they used to call it the smoke pit. I mean, I heard all kinds of jokes about that, but it was a good lesson I learned, and I learned it well, and I take care of my car to this day. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for that. So that's a little lesson in disciplining as well as celebrating your child. But that leads us to this next one. When you guys, you know, you all just didn't give me gifts and say, here you go. It was always, I had to prove I was responsible to handle the next gift, whether it was a car, whether it was everything. This is a microcosm, so we're going to go into this. Is when is a child ready to receive a gift, and how do you know that? Let me throw that back at you. Go ahead.
I think you know when a child is ready to receive a gift when they show an interest in the gift. Like with the car, Todd really did not want to drive, but I think all of his friends were driving, and I picked up on that. So I knew that he wanted the car, and he was so thankful to get that Monte Carlo. It was a sharp car, and he was so thankful to get it. But then he didn't realize he had to take care of that car. So you realize a child is responsible for getting a gift when they show an interest in it, and they become a responsible owner of that gift. They just don't leave it out in the driveway or leave it in other people's cars or in the yard or whatever. When they take care of that gift, then they become responsible for the ownership of that gift.
I want to go back to when you were probably 5 or 6 years old. And you would say or do something just to see my reaction. This particular day, when you were not in school yet, you came to me and said, no, I asked you, I said, Todd, what do you want to be when you grow up? Your response to me was, oh, I want to be a garbage collector. And I was livid, but I didn't show it. So I immediately set up a prayer to say, okay, what should be my response to this young man telling me he wants to be a garbage collector? So I said to him, I said, it's okay for you to be a garbage collector, but whatever you're going to be the best that you can be of what you are. And so I took it from there. I said, I'm gonna have faith that he's not gonna be a garbage collector, and you didn't go into being a garbage collector. You went all the way from grade school, high school, and college, and pleased us well.
Oh, well, I'm very honored. And let me explain this because I wanted things that were easy. I didn't want to work that hard. And when I looked out there and I saw a guy just picking up garbage, I said, oh, he gets paid just to pick up trash cans?
Mhm.
That looks like a fun, easy job to do. I can do that for the rest of my life and get paid. So in my mind, I just said, hey, I just want to be a garbage collector. And I think the response was, whatever you do, be the best. See, I think that's what's missing from all this. People want to get over, but they don't want to be at the best at what they do. So whatever you do, be the best at it. I mean, I think too many people shortchange themselves by not trying to be the best at it. They just want to do enough to get by, to get over, and then they go into all sorts of. They don't grow. So I think that the sad part about that is that people don't grow when they cut themselves short and when people allow them to do that. So we're not going to belabor this and stuff like that. I think we had a great discussion today on this, Mom and Dad. Just want to let everybody know that next week we have a very special guest. You don't want to miss that. So I hope you tune in next week when you watch this because it'll be a very interesting conversation that needs to happen. Dad, you want to say something here?
Yes, I want to relate an experience I had growing up with my mother and father. You know, growing up in Cassopolis, mainly I like to play baseball and football and softball and basketball. You know, that was my whole life, sports. I love sports. And, I'd come home, do my homework, and then go right out and play sports. Well, one Sunday afternoon, my mother and father went to South Bend, Indiana to hear a speaker.
Hmm.
And the speaker's name was Mary McLeod Bethune.
Oh.
And Mary McLeod Bethune, I wasn't there, but during the speech, they related to me that she told them how to raise a black child in a white environment. You know, give them a music instrument to play, and make sure they do their homework and read with them and all like that. And they came home, and the first thing Dad said to me, "What instrument do you want to play?" And I thought, "Instrument? I don't want to play an instrument." So I said, "I guess the trumpet." And then told Dean, "What instrument do you want to play?" He said the drums. So they got us in the band. They got us, they got us to play these instruments. And I wasn't really into instruments. I still wanted to play sports. And so they got us into that. And then we had to come home and do our homework. Even if we didn't have homework, we had to come home and read the books. So we read the books. Well, eventually it got to the point where I liked to study. Before that, study was no big deal to me. But I like to study and like to read and like to figure things out. And that became part of my life. So the thing is, you have to balance the scholastic with the sports. And once the child has a love for the scholastics, his life becomes balanced academically. Now, I could have very well just blown them off and blew off the academic and just go outside and play and play and play and play, which a lot of my friends did, and as a result didn't go to college because I remember in the 6th grade we had a test at Cassopolis High School, and in this test determined whether or not we were going into college bound courses or general studies. And I took this test, and and the first day of school, I got into this classroom, and I looked around, and all my buddies were not there. My friends were not there. So I went to Mrs. Hayden and said, "Mrs. Hayden, I think you made a mistake." And she looked at my records and said, "No." He said, "I'm in a class, in college prep class. And going to college, that was no big deal." And she said, "No, you're in the right class." So that really changed my life. And I did it because that's where I was directed to. I complained to Mom and Dad, and that went nowhere. That went nowhere at all. So I was stuck too in that class. But the important thing is education.
Mhm.
Education is important for an African American child, male and female. An education is something that can't be taken away from you, and an education opens doors that you would never have access to
Yes.
if you didn't have that education, that piece of paper, that
Mm.
MA, BA, or whatever you have, or PhD. That education opens doors, and that's one thing that nobody can take away from you.
Wow.
Yeah.
And well, anyway, I just want Dad, thank you for that story. That was so wonderful. I hope you all tune in next week because we got some more things to talk about here. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for sharing those thoughts today. Love you.
Love
Love
you
you.
too, Todd.
Mm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.